So here is my story about myself so you can get a little bit more insight to who I am, what I do, and why I do what I do. So it was July of last year. It all started with running over a possum, the police breaking down the tenant store that lived below me, a breakup, moving out of my apartment in Massachusetts, saying goodbye to my family, and a 50-hour drive across the country alone in a two-door coupe, packed to the brim, all within 3 weeks. And that's how I'm standing here today. So I'm Dan Silvestri. I went from growing up shy, going to a speech pathologist, having no confidence speaking and learning issues until 16 years old, and even getting kicked out of my first college to doing stand-up comedy to work on my speaking, influencing others online, and partnering with a legend in the personal development market on human potential, Bob Proctor, who just recently passed away in business. I'm a business coach, consultant on helping others overcome mindset blocks, have more freedom and growth in their life as well. And over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, my life has so dramatically changed that I like to come on here and really tell my story because I don't think enough people do that. And I don't think enough people overall are really vulnerable about the situations that they went through. So this is it. I'm going to put as much as I can into this. I'm not going to keep it super long, or maybe around 10 minutes or so. But if you want to know who I am, then this is a good spot to be at. So I want to take you through my journey, and hopefully this inspires at least one of you today, really, to help you step into your power too. So I went from growing up, I was afraid, I was a shy kid, speech impediment, I was afraid to talk, I was embarrassed that I needed to be fixed. I remember in situations, my parents would introduce me to certain people or friends and things like this, and I would hide behind my parents. I wouldn't look people in the eye. I would literally avoid eye contact as well. So keep this in mind, a very shy kid, and I thought I needed to be fixed, and I was embarrassed of this whole thing. So I started to take on that identity. I took on an identity that I was that shy guy. I started to act out. I remember one time in high school, my dad got called into a meeting with my principal, and she looked at my dad right in the eyes. She said, "I'm worried about Dana." And she was really worried about the troubles I was going through and the things that I was doing. I was acting out, and it brought tears to my eye because I knew I wasn't a bad person, but my whole life I was kind of like misunderstood, and I was kind of framed um, of having that identity of someone that wasn't smart and someone that I couldn't do things and everything like that. So I learned now, looking back through all my studies into entrepreneurship, into mindset and things like this, I learned that regardless of your age, your gender, your personality, that modern science, it's really telling us through epigenetics and neuroplasticity, studying the brain, that our brains are plastic, meaning they can be changed. So we can change ourselves. It doesn't matter what age you are. Obviously, the younger you are, the better. But it doesn't matter if you're 20, 40, 60, or 80. You can make a choice to change. So I started with no hope, no future, no idea what I wanted, and then I had some major breakthroughs. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now what those were. So at age 16, I lost my aunt and uncle to cancer in the same year, and I was devastated. And at this point, I've never lost anyone in my family, so I didn't know what that felt like. So I felt the pain of loss, and you know what that feels like if you lost someone, especially at a young age. And it was two people in the same year. I didn't know what to do, so I really had to kind of like just made a decision there that I was going to be super healthy, and I didn't want anyone in the future, my future kids, family, my parents, anyone to worry about my health. So I did is I started to work out. I literally gained 35 pounds of muscle that year. And not only that, I gained a lot of confidence in that process. So anyways, I went on to college. Eventually, I graduated with a bachelor in business, and I had a lot of records that I broke along the way as well because I had a lack of purpose. And what I mean by this, I was arrested not once, not twice, not three, not four, but 5 times. One time, 2 times in 2 weeks. I got kicked out of my first college for partying. Some of you didn't know this about me. And I wasn't even trying. Imagine if I was trying to do all this. I was still playing that identity that I created for myself. I wasn't smart. I had no purpose. I might as well just go around and do what I want and just live life that way. Later on, I ended up losing someone very close to me in a car accident as well. And that was devastating to me too, because it showed that someone my age, that we're not guaranteed life, even if someone's 80 or 90. They could live longer. And it changed my concept of time, and it changed my concept of urgency around time. See, a lot of people don't understand what time really is, and they don't understand how to measure it. So I started to, because I had all these losses, I started to ask myself these questions. Why am I here? What is here? How long do I have? What is my purpose? Am I even guaranteed tomorrow? You can ask yourself these same questions. And this is when the process of change really starts to happen. So anyways, I graduated, I got my first corporate job, and it took me about 6 months to realize that I was underpaid, underappreciated, and abused. We were overworked, working 65 hours a week for someone else, working on the weekends. Department of Labor had to come in and either tell me that they were going to give me a check, or I could take the company to court. And I just decided, I wasn't going to go through all that. I just decided I needed to change something. And at this time, this is in 2017, so at this time, I was listening to a lot of podcasts. And on these podcasts, we were talking about successful people journal. And I was like, what is journaling? I started to look it up. It's, writing out your goals, answering questions, doing mental dumps with information, writing out your goals, like I just said. So in 2017, I decided I was going to buy a journal from CVS. And I went in Worcester, Massachusetts, I hiked Wachusett Mountain during the summertime. It took about 20 minutes to get to the top. And the plan was I was going to journal. So I got to the top, and there was a ski lift there during the summer. It was all beautiful day out. The sun was out, but probably about 82 degrees, very comfortable. So I sat on that ski lift, and what I did here changed my life forever. So I want you to listen. I sat down, I took out a pen, I took out my journal that I just bought, and in every topic, relationships, career, finances, family, vacations, friends, all of this, with no limits, I wrote out exactly what I wanted. Exactly what I wanted with no limits, and it took 8 hours that day, that weekend. So keep that in mind. It was all coming from my spirit, my soul. It wasn't what I thought I could have. It wasn't what I thought I could accomplish. It wasn't what I think I could do. It's what I wanted. And then bang, something hit me. It wasn't a bird. I thought it was a bird at first. It wasn't a bird. I had a breakthrough in that moment that I had to change my path right now and make a decision to do that, or I would have a path of a lack of purpose and fulfillment. And this could happen now, or this could happen in 20 years. It was really up to me. So although so many people would see that my path of, graduating college and having that corporate role as a form of success, it was not success in my heart. So just because the path less traveled is scary doesn't mean that you should ignore your feeling or your heart. You have no idea what's going to happen. So I say to go after it. I say that you should take out a pen today, write out exactly what you want, not what you think you can have, and go from there. That's what changed my life. It was literally all these moments. And what happened is all these moments, all these breakthroughs that I had, it led to me on that day in 2017, it led me to feeling like I was reborn. I had goals. I had a purpose. I even knew what I wanted. And then in 2020, my dream came true, and it was not the pandemic. But from 2017 to 2020, I had no experience. I had no knowledge. I started my business from scratch with nothing. Okay? I remember at one point my bank account went to negative $235, and I was getting hit with these like monthly subscriptions, and I had no money, so it was charging me another $50, another $35, another $50. It was devastating. So what I did is I dove into marketing, sales, coaching, online events. I invested over $48,000 into mentors to teach me what they knew to save myself time. I did stand-up comedy to work on my speaking. I created content online, hours and hours, reviewed these sales calls. I went skydiving to conquer fears, half marathons, raw diet cleanses. And finally, in 2020, I began to make my first money online. What was once a fantasy in my mind, now was actually happening. It was really cool. I started to learn about this guy he just passed away, Bob Proctor, unfortunately. I started to learn about him, and I made it a goal. And keep in mind, Bob Proctor charged for 6 months for one call per an hour. For the 6 months, he charged $250,000. So I made a goal that I was going to have a conversation with him. I was going to be connected with him. I went online on Google. I printed out a photo of Bob Proctor. And he's been in business 60 years at this point. He just passed away. One of the legends in personal development, right? A legend on human potential in the mind. I printed out this photo. I sat down, and I went on Canva, and I photoshopped me next to it. I printed it off the computer. I put it near my desk. I put it on my phone. I put it on my laptop screensaver. And then 6 to 8 months later, I forget, in that range, I was sitting on a one-on-one Zoom call with Bob Proctor himself, and I had no idea what happened. I just knew I was there. So what happened there is I decided to go into partnership with himself and his business as a consultant and combine our powers together in that sense. And it drove my business to over six figures in a little over a year. And more importantly, I became a whole new person in this process. So I know you've heard so many times to like focus on your strengths, and I want to challenge you to focus on your weaknesses. Like I did, I pinpointed what I needed to work on, the sales, the marketing. I knew nothing about this stuff before 2020. I knew nothing. I spent hours and hours learning it, learning from mentors. So focus on something a weakness that you're facing today, and put it in that, the desire, the faith, the confidence, and number one, the action to do that, and your life and your whole life will change as well. So this brings us now to this year, actually, of April 2021, last year, when I recorded a memo. And I took out my phone one day, and I literally took out my phone and I said, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm living in a luxury apartment in Scottsdale, Arizona by October 2021. I still have the recording from last April. And like God was listening the whole time. Over the course of that July, I ran over a possum. My car insurance wouldn't cover it. It's $5,256. A new tenant moved below myself and my girlfriend at the time. And one day we came back and there was three police cruisers outside our apartment. And apparently there was an assault and battery. The police broke down the door below us. On top of that, my girlfriend at the time and I grew apart. And in 3 weeks, I had to come up with a plan to find a place in Arizona, drive 50 hours across the country, and continue my business in the process. So how does the story end? Well, I'm standing here today. In conclusion, I brought you on a journey from the shy guy, losing three people that were close to me in my life, getting in trouble in college, having a breakthrough of writing up my vision. And I talked about neuroplasticity, saying that we can change our brains no matter the age. So you can change yourself no matter what. You just have to decide. And just because the path less traveled is scary doesn't mean that you should ignore your gut feeling, your heart. You have no idea what's going to happen. So I want you to sit down, take out a pen, and write out what you really, really want, just like I did in my story. I described it to you. And then focus on the desire, the faith, the action, the belief. Pick a weakness that you want to improve on and begin at once. And again, I don't say this to impress anyone. I say this to impress upon you the following things. I was just a regular guy, from Massachusetts that wanted to make a change. Let my story be an inspiration to let each one of you know that any obstacle or problem you're facing is an absolute gift with the right mental attitude. You're not tied to your path in any way besides your thoughts that you have about it. And you can create a new version of yourself just like I did. But just a quick warning about that is your new life is going to cost you your old one. And then once you go through this process, you can really turn your mess into your message. So I hope you see the message that came out of my mess today. And I hope that I inspired you in some sort of way with these stories, showing you that success is not a straight line. It's a game that goes up and down, and all around. It's all about persistence. The universe loves persistence. And you're going to have guidance in that process if you truly believe that. And know that it's an internal game. So it's happening from the inside out, from a higher potential down. Most people focus from their circumstances, their events, their bank accounts, everything around them, the people. And that's how they make the decisions. That's the wrong way to do it. So again, Dana Silvestri here. I just shared with you a little bit about my story. And this is really the fast track version. There's so much more to it. And I hope that you feel like you know me a little bit more. And definitely reach out to me if you want to connect, if you want to talk anytime. Send me a message, drop a comment below about what you liked about this. And thank you if you listened the whole time. I'm sure that you got something great out of it. See you next time.